Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Real Stories of Hurting Moms. My name is Cathy Taylor, and tonight I have my friend Joyce with us to visit. And so happy to have you, Joyce. Joyce is up in Canada, in Alberta, Canada. And is it cold up there?
Yes.
You know, they were making a big deal on the news here. I'm in Southern California. They were making a big deal on the news here today because this month of February is the first time in 100 years that not one day got up to 70 degrees. We've been in the 60s all month.
We were an average for the month of February of minus 20 degrees. That was our average, minus 20.
Minus 20.
Minus 20. That was unusual.
We don't even know how to deal with that. Our
blood inside.
Gosh, that's cold. Well, I'm so happy to have you with me tonight, Joyce, and I'm excited for you to talk to the moms that are tuning in. Before we get to your story, I do have a couple things like always. I love you guys to tell us if this is your first time. I was looking back at the video from last week, the broadcast from last week, and so surprising at how many moms, even today, were watching it for the first time. So if this is your very first time to watch on a Thursday night, would you let me know about that? Just say it's my first time. And then also, where are you watching from? I'm in Southern California. Joyce is in Alberta, Canada. And we've got moms from all over the U.S. and in Canada, a lot of moms in Canada. We even have a mom who's getting ready to start a group in Australia. And we have moms from really all over the world, which is pretty exciting. So go ahead and in the comments, let us know where you're watching from and if this is your first time or not. So I love that. So Joyce, this is pretty exciting. Joyce is the very first, actually she was one of the very first groups, period, when this first came out, when the workbook first came out. And when did you say you led your first group, Joyce? When was that?
In September of 2016 is
September
when I led.
September of 2016. And the workbook came out, you started right away. The workbook came out like in 2015.
I got it in April of 2015. In 2016, I got the workbook.
Yeah. And so she started leading a group. I mean, and I was so excited because it was in Canada. I mean, we had a couple groups in the US and we have a lot more now, of course, but that we had a Canadian group and she just like plowed right into it. And I'd love for you, first of all, to share a little bit about your story, what made you interested in Hurting Moms, and then some of the things about your group. And I know you had a unique situation in your group that I want you to share about in a few minutes too, but go ahead, take it away.
Okay, well, I guess my journey kind of started in 2014. It was a good start to the year. We had both of our children got married in 2014 and things were going great. And I thought, well, this is a great life. And then all of a sudden, very unexpectedly to all of us, at the end of that year, one of our children developed a very serious addiction. Caught us all off guard. We had no idea how to handle it. And we didn't know where to turn for resources or anything like that. And so we just decided that we better try to fix everything, right? That's what moms do. So that obviously did not go very well for us. So our daughter was very quick to recognize the fact that she was in serious trouble and she decided she would go for rehab. So during that time, we were like, well, that's great. Now she's going to get fixed and it's all going to be good. And we're just going to continue on. Well, that's not how it works. And somebody said to us, well, what are you going to do now that, you've got this in your family? And I said, well, we don't need to do anything. She's the one with the problem. She's getting fixed. So we're good. And he's like, oh no. He says, you're going to have a really difficult few years ahead of you or even longer. You really should maybe try Al-Anon. So I said, okay, well, what's Al-Anon and where do I find this? It was all so foreign to us. So we went to an Al-Anon group, and the very first meeting we heard about the 3 C's. You can't cure it, you can't control it, and you didn't cause it. So that was both good news, and I didn't like the part that I couldn't control it because type A personality, I wanted to control it, but realized very quickly that I couldn't do that. And very wise and helpful words indeed were those 3 C's. That was helpful. But I found in the Al-Anon group that I couldn't talk about God. I mean, there is like a higher power in the Al-Anon group, and you could talk about a higher power, but I couldn't ask anybody to pray for me, and I couldn't pray for any of the other, well, I could pray for them, but not out loud. And so I just, that Christmas, the Christmas of 2016 or 2015 was really difficult. And I didn't know where to go for help. And I remember in January just scrolling through my Facebook page, and all of a sudden I saw this Hurting Moms, Mending Hearts. And I'm like, yes, that's me. Who is this? Where's this group? And so I remember I sent an email off to you, and within a very short, just hours, I got an email back, and you said, well, the closest group was in California. And I quickly did the math and realized that was 1,500 miles away, and not possible for a weekly visit. So I said, well, what else can I do? And you said, well, why don't you get the material and start a group? And I said, start a group? I haven't even been to a group. I don't know how to do this. And I remember you phoned me and you prayed with me, and that was very encouraging. And like, you were a real person, and you took the time to talk to me. So I found that to be very helpful.
Oh, that's good. Well, I remember when you got started, and you were so good. You were so diligent about, you got your leader guide, and the leader guide, did you find that to be helpful? The leader guide basically walks you through.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not hard to lead a group. It's really facilitation. I mean,
that's exactly, yes.
And it gives you, it helps you.
Yes, it does.
I remember, and you called me a couple times when there were when you had situations that you weren't sure about. But share with us a little bit about the situation that occurred. You were 7 weeks in when this happened in your group?
Yes, we had a small group when we started. I mean, I was just thinking, if I have this issue, there's got to be other women. And so I really pushed, somewhere, if I pushed the church and asked, is there a chance we can lead this through the church? And it was interesting. The ladies that came weren't even all from our church. And I don't even know how they heard about this group. It really was God leading these women together. So there was 5 of us, and we found that as soon as we got together, we just had this bond because we became very vulnerable with each other. And that's, I would really encourage somebody, if they're not in a group, join a group. It's a place where you can share your deep, dark, ugly secrets that are harboring in your heart about your kids. And and so we had, like I say, a group of 5 people, 5 moms, and we just shared. And after the 7th week, all of a sudden we got the devastating news that one of the moms had lost her child and to an overdose. And I was stunned and didn't know what I should do. I remember calling you and I said, do we keep going with the material or do we stop? And we all got together as moms and we went to the funeral, and the mom really said, she says, I could never have made it through this without this support group, because she said, I knew you were praying for me, and I knew you understood what I was going through, in a sense, of course, not the deep loss at that point, but yes, it was very helpful for her. And she came to every meeting and she finished the 10-week course with us. And yeah, she was one strong woman.
I remember at the time you told me you had gone to the funeral, the whole group, all of you went, and you sat together, and how you were so amazed that here just 7 weeks before you didn't even know each other.
That's right.
And here you were going through this tragedy together, but really bonding and able to support and encourage. And you just said in that moment, you just felt so much love for these ladies and felt so close to them. So
I think because you're so vulnerable with them that you just immediately connect on a level that you would never connect with someone else. Like, I have great friends that are willing to pray for me when my kids are in trouble, but they don't understand the same way that another hurting mom does. Yeah. So when I send an email to my hurting moms or a message saying, please pray for me, I know they understand. They're not like, what, again? We have to pray for this child again? Like, why aren't they fixed? And the other moms, the hurting moms group, they're like, gotcha, praying for you, understand you.
I think that's one of the most powerful parts of the whole thing, really, is to be in an intimate situation with other moms who totally understand. And it doesn't really matter what the situation is. We have all kinds of situations. Obviously, with the drug epidemic, we have lots of moms or moms of drug addict kids. But there's so many moms are estranged from their kids that have turned their back on their family or chosen alternative lifestyles, whatever the reason is that you're hurting. What I've learned is it's all the same kind of hurt. We all have the same pain. And so we come together, and the situations might be different, but when you talk about it and everybody understands and you don't feel alone. And I don't know about you, but boy, I went through a lot of years where I didn't want to talk about it because I was so ashamed. I felt like I was being judged, and it felt like everybody else had perfect kids.
Yes, that is exactly true. And I mean, I didn't come from a family that had a lot of these issues. Like I say, it caught us very off guard. And so I thought, well, the last thing I want to admit to my family is that I have this child, and, they'll think it's my fault that she has this problem. But it's not really, that's not how they looked at it, but that's how I felt. And that's why I say in a group, you just become vulnerable with other women who understand. And it's just so encouraging. And they have become some of my closest friends. I've led 2 groups now, and we've kind of amalgamated the 2 groups on a messenger site, and we just stay in touch. And it's just so encouraging to have somebody else that understands.
So many of the groups, whether they're local groups, and right now there's around 50 local groups throughout the U.S. and Canada, with more getting ready to start. And then we always have probably 8 online groups going at any given time, every day of the week. So if there's not a group in your area, you can get an online group. But what happens in these groups, like you said, you had a messenger situation. A lot of the groups have like private Facebook pages. And I've talked to people who finished their groups like 2 years ago, and they're still like you, still connected. These are still some of their closest friends. And I know even for myself, I had been part of a group, early on. And then like a year later or down the line, is when I found out that my oldest daughter was an addict. And the first thing I did was go to that Facebook page and reach out for prayer. I mean, it's just like, who else are you going to tell, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's just like such a special thing that we're able to do. One of the things that was really is still intriguing now. Okay, so you're in Lethbridge, Alberta, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And you had a group there, and then from that group, another group in Lethbridge at a different church.
Yes. Yeah.
So you had a mom in your group that then took it and started at her church. And now, and I saw one of them on here already, we've got 2 new groups getting ready to start in Alberta. One is in Tabor and one is in Calgary. Mm-hmm. And they're getting ready to start in the next month or month and a half. And so I think Alberta might be ahead of the other provinces in Canada with groups. We have like 2 in British Columbia and 1 in Ontario. And and we've got leaders.
One in Winnipeg.
Winnipeg, yes, we do. That's right. Yeah. And then we have some leaders that are leading online groups, but we have leaders in Saskatchewan and Nova Scotia. So our Canadian family. In fact, if you're from Canada and you're watching, let us know. But I see Kelly from Ontario, Canada, and Bonnie Jean Parker is New Brunswick, Canada. And so I've seen a couple of other Canadians. If you're from Canada, put the emoji, give us an emoji of the Canadian flag. Let us see, proudly display your flag.
Or an igloo.
Yeah. And we have tons and tons of moms and groups in the U.S. too. I see Marissa from New Hampshire. And Gwendolyn, she's one of our leaders. She's an online leader. She's in Lakeland, Florida. Can you see the comments, Joyce?
No, I can't.
So it's just so wonderful that I think what happens in these groups is moms get into a group, and remember the groups. There's Denise Duran. She's one of our leaders in Saskatchewan. Moms get into these groups and they find healing and hope, and they have this bond with the other moms, and now they want to share it with other moms. I mean, those of us that are in this kind of pain, and when you find that there is an answer, that you're able to move beyond the pain, you just want to share it with other moms. I don't know At least that's how I feel.
Yes, definitely. That's exactly what motivated me to start the group. I found through your book, where you shared your story about your personal story about your children and how vulnerable you were, and that they came, you got some peace through that. And I remember you saying, like, you have to surrender your children to God. And that's something I had to learn to do even on a day-to-day basis, just surrender my kids to God. And I was really touched by your book. And then I thought, I just have to there's got to be other moms out there. If I'm going through this, there has to be other moms. And I just wanted to help them because it just hurt so bad to do it alone.
It does. And that's how I started this whole thing in the first place. You read about that in my book. Anybody who's watching that hasn't read the autobiography, and I told Joyce ahead of time, I don't like talking about it too much. The main reason I wrote it was for encouragement, because I just want y'all to know you're not alone. And maybe if I could put my story out there, and I have a lot of stuff in my past. I mean, I was part of the problem with my child, and I'm very open about that in the book. So if you haven't read it yet and you're interested, there's going to be a link above the video that you can click on where you can get the book. But yeah, it is that I think the whole vulnerability piece is hugely important too, to talking about. But that's how I started it. I felt like, surely I must not be the only one. I can't be the only one. And I really had a longing to be able to meet with other moms who understood what I felt and that would pray with me. That was like the main thing, was to have other moms, to be able to share with moms who understood me, and to be able to have other people pray for me and me to be able to pray for them and their children. Because I felt so alone. I felt so alone in it.
Yes, and that's where the Al-Anon group provided that initially for us and gave us a lot of really good information. But I just missed that spiritual connection with the other moms, and just knowing that, like, at times when I just didn't know what to pray anymore, that there was, a group of women that were carrying that for me, and that was great. And that whole piece of it, though, I thought, without going into any detail, and Joyce and I were talking about it earlier, we've had several tragedies within our Hurting Moms community this week. Within our leadership, we have a leader group that we have prayer requests, and we talk, and we've had some really hard things happen this week, and it's so nice to know that we can pray for each other, and that and Joyce and I were talking about how in the past, when we've gotten to the point where it gets hard to pray sometimes, right? You feel like your prayers aren't being answered. Why is God not answering my prayers? Why is my child not doing any better? And then we get also, so that for me anyway, I'd be so almost numb sometimes with pain and heartbreak. But when other people are praying for us, I could feel it. I felt lifted up. Did you experience? Yes, definitely. And even the other moms have said that too. They say, like, it's so reassuring when they send out a request on Messenger, please pray. And within 5 minutes, there's 8 women saying, yes, praying for you. It just feels like you're loved. Like this big, arms are just wrapped around you and you're being carried. It's great.
It's a really good feeling. I mean, it's a good feeling. Patty says, I'm too numb to pray. But Patty, you know what? Just by putting that on there, I guarantee you there's going to be other moms that are going to be praying for you. And so I see Barbara Simeon. Hi, Barb. Barbara was an online group leader, and she got busy with her family. And so she said she misses her group. So we miss having you lead. Anytime you're ready to lead, come on back. Be happy to have you. And Anita is saying it's so important not to isolate. That word, isolate, that's what we tend to do so many times. So
I think that's what Satan wants us to do, because there's no power by yourself, right? The power is when 2 or 3 are gathered together.
Yeah.
That's Absolutely. What we want to do.
Absolutely. It's I don't even know how to explain. I always kind of explain it by saying it's actually supernatural, because God is supernatural. I mean, he's just like something we can't even wrap our brains around. But it's so amazing, the things that happen. And that right away, I see moms, just like you said, saying, Patty, we're praying for you. So
Yeah.
immediately. And this is what is so important about getting into a hurting mom support group.
Yes.
So we have the Facebook like this, and we know that this is helpful. You come on here, you realize you're not alone. You can comment back and forth to each other, and it's helpful and it's an encouragement. But the real healing and where you're really going to be able to, get the healing in your life and get the tools that you need to move beyond that pain is in a hurting mom support group. And they're called breaking free groups, and they last for 10 weeks. That goes fast too, doesn't it, Joyce?
Yeah, it does. And there's something therapeutic about sharing your story. It's like you get it off your chest. It's very beneficial that way.
I always, one of my favorite, I have my little Cathy phrases. One of my favorite things to say is, talking about things takes the power out of it.
Yes, very true.
If we don't talk about it, and it just eats us up on the inside, and we just get sick with it.
That's right.
But Drema says Misbeliefs of a Hurting Mom audio series. They are not CDs, they are downloads. It's basically, if you're on here on Facebook, Drema, you have internet, and what happens is we send you a link and you just click on it. That's all you have to do is click on the link and it opens up for you. So if you want to email me at kathybt@hurtingmoms.com, I'll walk you through it. So I see Adrian from Palace Hills, Illinois, and Tess from Virginia Beach. And I love seeing my husband tells me I sound like, you guys remember Hobo Kelly? One of those children's shows where she looks in the mirror and says, "Oh, and I see Susie," and that's what I'm doing. Anyway, Lisa Gay Wolfson, she says, "Breaking Free is a great title for the workbook. It's exactly how I feel." Yes. She's able to think ahead. And Terry's one who lives here nearby. She says, "Writing down things help." You know what? That's true too, isn't it?
Yes.
Like, journaling, if you get it from here to the paper somehow.
Yeah. And then, writing your prayer requests down and going back and seeing how God answers them.
Yes, I do that. I do that in my quiet time. And there's some times when I go back and go, oh yeah, you forget about God's so faithful. He's so faithful. And oh yeah, Romper Room, Lisa. That's right.
Oh yes.
Okay, Romper Room. That's right. I don't know who Hobo Kelly is, but I've heard that name. Terry remembers Hobo Kelly. Anyway, but God is faithful. And sometimes it feels, what I always remember too, our timing or his timing is not our timing.
Yes.
For us, like sometimes it feels like it's taking so long for anything to happen. But for him, it's like he's dealing in eternity. So what might be a few years even for us is like a blink of an eye for God. And so he has a bigger plan. He's looking way down the road from anything that we can imagine. Deb Ives, hi Deb. Deb is in Lexington, Michigan, and I had the privilege of going and visiting with her and staying at her bed and breakfast in December. And for a California girl, it was cold. She says the 10 weeks go by really fast. She's an online leader as well.
Okay.
So it's fun to see you all on here. It's so funny how most of you I haven't even met in person or gotten to give a hug to, but I feel so like I know you. So, and I love seeing all the new people on as well. It's really, really a blessing to be able to come on here. What else? Do you have any other words of wisdom or anything you want to share with the moms, Joyce?
Well, just don't give up praying, because we had all these women praying for each of us, and I know there's been changes. Some moms haven't seen as many changes as they want, but of course we keep praying, and I definitely am very grateful that God has answered our prayers for our child. She's doing much better. She's we're in good contact with each other. She's made amends with the family, and yes, things are going well, and it's just such a blessing to see how God worked through that. I've said to her, I'm not even angry with you for having put me through this, because I've gotten to meet all these great ladies, and I've certainly learned a lot through this whole experience, and I'm thankful that we went through it, but I just as soon not do it again.
Yeah, be happy not to have to repeat that. a couple of women, I got sidetracked because a couple of women are saying, Sharon said, and Lisa's saying the same thing. We need to have a conference so we can all meet each other, get close together. And so
That would be nice. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and maybe we're going to do that. I mean, we've talked about that, talked about having a conference. And I think eventually that's something that's going to, happen eventually. But yeah, I think about that often too, that, had I not gone through the heartbreak and the pain that I went through, I wouldn't have started Hurting Moms. I'm sure somebody would have, because I believe that God wants this ministry to happen.
Definitely.
I'm not a visionary person. Some of you have heard me say that. It's not like I had a dream, like I want to reach thousands of moms. I did it for myself because I was in pain and I needed help. And so that's why I started it, but never did I see this coming. And this is God. I just think that this is a plan that He had. And all the years prior to writing this program, I had years of experience leading Celebrate Recovery and developing leaders. And I feel like He's using all that today in this ministry. So
definitely.
I'm so grateful.
Perfect timing for me.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Well, I'm so grateful to have you on here, and just, having you on here too reminds me back when we first kind of started this, because you were one of the very first ones to grab onto it. So I'm glad you did.
Well, and I'm glad I did too.
Who would have thought that there would be like 5 or 6 groups in Alberta today?
That's right. Yes.
It all started with you. So I'm so happy to be here with all of you tonight, and we're gonna wind it up already. See, didn't the time go fast?
It did.
I told you, you'll have to come on again with me. I told Joyce the time's gonna go really fast, but I just want to thank you all for watching and let you know we're all in this together. Nobody's alone. We continue to pray for each other. Joyce, I want to encourage you when we get done. Go ahead, go back and. Go ahead and answer the women or comment on their comments. Anything you want to do. But yeah, we're all in this together. We're all a family, and this community is so important. It's so important to me and in my whole recovery and my whole attitude. And I hope that it's helping you. Gwendolyn says the hurting has repurposed me for the greater good, for His glory, serving others. And Gwendolyn is in Florida and has a heartbreaking story, but she is leading groups now and doing things, with her church, serving all kinds of people. So you are an inspiration, Gwendolyn. So thank you, ladies, for joining us tonight. Keep talking to each other. Keep praying for each other. We talked about tonight. And Joyce, I'm so grateful. Thank you for being here with me tonight.
Yes, thank you.
And we'll do it again.
Okay.
All right. Good night, everybody. Take care. Have a good week.